In Chapter 4, we will learn about correlation and regression. Specifically, we will learn how to analyze and interpret data for making wise decisions. Section 4.1 provides an introduction to scatter diagrams and linear correlation. A scatter diagram is a graph in which data pairs, labeled as XY, are plotted as individual points on a grid with horizontal axis X and vertical axis Y. We call the X the explanatory variable and Y the response variable. Studies of correlation and regression of two variables usually begin with a graph of paired data's values XY. In this example, X is the age in years and Y is the price in dollars. By looking at a scatter diagram of data pairs, you can observe whether there seems to be a linear relationship between the X and Y values. In general, we can see a downward trend, which implies that the price of a car decreases with time. Here's our first example. Phosphorus is a chemical used in many household and industrial cleaning compounds. Unfortunately, phosphorus tends to find its way into surface water, where it can kill fish, plants, and other wetland creatures. Phosphorus reduction programs are required by law and are monitored by the Environmental Protection Agency. A random sample of 8 sites in a California wetland study gave the following information about phosphorus reduction in drainage water. In this study, X is a random variable that represents phosphorus concentration in 100 milligrams per liter at the inlet of a passive biotreatment facility, and Y is a random variable that represents total phosphorus concentration in 100 milligrams per liter at the outlet of the passive biotreatment facility. In Part A, for a scatter diagram, we need to make a scatter diagram for the data. So our solution: to make the diagram, first scan the data and decide on an appropriate scale for each axis. So on the x-axis we have the phosphorus concentration at the inlet, and on the y-axis we have the phosphorus concentration at the outlet. Then plot the individual data points as shown below. Part B, interpretation. Comment on the relationship between X and Y. By inspecting the figure, we see that smaller values of X are associated with smaller values of Y, and larger values of X tend to be associated with larger values of Y. Roughly speaking, the general trend seems to be reasonably well represented by an upward sloping line segment. Prep work number 1. Do higher paid chief executive officers control bigger companies? Here, X equals the annual CEO salary in millions, and Y equals the annual company revenue in billions. The following data are based on information from Forbes magazine and represents a sample of top U.S. executives. Number 1, create a scatter diagram. Using only the scatter diagram, would you estimate the correlation coefficient to be positive, close to 0, or negative? Explain your answer. Pause the video here, give it a try on your own, and to verify your answer, keep going and look at the next slide. And here's the solution.